at ICER Kolkata. As the word has already spread, many of you might be aware of this publication in Science Journal, which describes the world's hardest self-healing material, a feat which has garnered much acclaim. Today, we are fortunate to have with us the authors Surajit Bhuiya doing his PhD in Dr. Reddy's lab at ICER Kolkata, Rituparna Chaudhary currently pursuing his PhD in Cavendish Laboratory at University of Cambridge, and Dr. Shubham Chandel, currently researcher at the Nanophotonics and Metrology Department at EPFL Lausanne. I will describe the structure of the session in short. First, we will have the paper presentation, which will then be followed by a discussion and question answer session, where you can share your thoughts, ideas, questions, anything with the authors present. You can post this on Google Meet chat at any time during or after the presentation. You can also raise your hand at the end of the presentation and talk. We shall ask you to unmute. However, we request you not to stop the presenter midway in their presentation. So without further ado, I hand over to Anusha to begin their presentation.
So I'm starting my
Hello, Anusha.
presentation.
Yes, you can go, please.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Today's topic of presentation is healing is now a piezo cake. I am Anusha Biswas from 19MS and I'm going to present the paper named Autonomous Cell Repair in Piezoelectric Molecular Crystal. This is the paper and this is the authors of the paper written here. I introduce with this schematic picture of the self-repairing living tissues. One of the most fascinating features of the living world is to heal wounds by itself. When a living material is damaged, the stress mediates the accumulation of electrical charges in the injured part, which interacts to close the wounds and heal it soon, which is shown in this figure. In synthetic world, many attempts are made to mimic this amazing property of self-repair in synthetic material. There are few materials like polymers, composite materials, etc., which show self-repair like property. Most of them are soft and amorphous in nature. They require external stimuli like non-mechanical stresses, that is heat, light, chemical, reagent, but they took a long time to repair, like more than 1 days or like that. And almost all of them are failed to self-repair when they are kept physically separated. Now, in the case of crystalline compounds, they exhibit dense packing and highly ordered arrangement, for which the diffusion becomes extremely poor in them, and precise ordering of the fragmented parts is not an easy task for such compounds. Therefore, to overcoming these drawbacks, an efficient self-healing and self-repairing material should have the following properties. The first property is the self-healing should be continued even the broken pieces of the crystals are physically separated. The healing time should be less and the broken pieces should align with each other in a perfect manner. The substance should continue the repetition of the self-healing for many cycles. There are few materials which show similar kinds of properties like hybrid macromolecular ferritin hydrogel crystal. For this, the self-repairing is mediated actually by salt gradient of the solution and the single crystals of cell poronic ester. But it takes quite long time to heal, like 24 hours and like that. So a alternative approach of self-repairing is introduced here by using the inherent piezoelectric effect in non-centrosymmetric crystal to achieve the efficient self-healing in required time scale. Now to explain about the piezoelectricity. Piezoelectricity is a phenomena of generation of electrical potential and the accumulation of electrical charge in crystal faces when mechanical trace is applied to the crystal. And this type of crystal whose exhibiting the piezoelectricity is termed as piezoelectric crystal. In this picture, the presence of potential difference between the two phases of piezoelectric crystal is experimented in the setup where the pressure is applied. The crystals usually contain dipolar part in it. In normal condition, the dipolar in normal condition there are no trace is applied, the dipoles are arranged in a random manner so that the net dipole moment is zero and no potential is shown. But when the pressure is applied or some other mechanical traces is applied to the crystal, the dipoles are oriented in orderly fashion so that the net dipole moment is non-zero and the voltage is generated across the two opposite surfaces of the crystal. Therefore, the polarization of the crystal increases. Now, another important aspect is the absence of centrosymmetry, that is non-centrosymmetry. The centrosymmetry is a phenomenon that the inverted center is present as one of the symmetry element in a molecule or a crystal. That is, with respect to this center, a point xyz for will be indistinguishable with the point of -x, -1, -z. Therefore, the inversion of the crystal with respect to this inversion crystal leaves it similar to that of previous crystal. Actually, as the centrosymmetry, here we describe a example of centrosymmetric molecule. Benzene is a good example to show centrosymmetry, and this is the inversion center for the benzene. Now we come to a piezoelectricity of this molecule. Actually, the centrosymmetric molecules are unable to show piezoelectricity because when the centrosymmetry of the molecule actually cancel the orderly oriented dipoles even in the stressed condition, which lead the net dipole moment to be zero and no voltage is found. Therefore, the centrosymmetric molecules can't show piezoelectricity. Therefore, to show piezoelectricity, the molecule is supposed to be non-centrosymmetric. Now, the chosen chemical material is 3,3.55' tetramethyl 4,4' Here, this is the methyl substituted pyrazole molecule, and two of these methyl substituted pyrazole molecules are associated to form this bipyrazole unit. And this is a 3D structure of the molecule. To explain the synthesis process, the molecule is synthesized in the gram scale using this following reagents, and the reaction scheme is given here. Now to introduce in the crystallization part, 50 mg of the compound is added to 5 ml of methanol solution in a clean conical flask, and it's heated for 10 minutes at near about 40 degrees Celsius temperature, and then it's kept for 3 to 5 days, after which the transparent slender needle-shaped crystals are obtained, and these crystals are characterized by single crystal X-ray diffraction pattern. Now to discuss the nature and the properties of this molecule and the crystal. The crystals are needle-shaped with length 1 to 2 mm with width 0.1 to 0.2 mm, and these crystals are piezoelectric crystals and non-symmetric in nature. They are usually harder and stiffer than most of the other self-healing material. Here in this picture, this is the obtained crystal, and this is the face. This is the face having Miller indices 010, and this face is having Miller indices 100, and this is another face with Miller indices 001. This crystal is known as pristine crystal. In this crystal, a crack is introduced. In this single crystal, it is a cracked crystal, and in this C, there the crack is perfectly healed, and the crack marks is also disappears. Therefore, it is a neatly healed crystal. But in the D crystal, when in the D and E, there is the crack line is visible still even after the healing process. Therefore, it's an imperfectly healed crystal. Now let's discuss about the chemical structure of the molecule. The crystal is of monohydrate form and its crystallized unit cell is tetragonal. It contains an asymmetric part which has four bipyrazole molecules. Each is co-crystallized with ordered water molecule. The crystal proceeds through a crystal axis with two crystallographically equivalent surfaces with Miller indices 100 and 010 that shown before. The water molecules are oriented in a columnar direction in infinite one-dimensional chain fashion in zigzag pattern. The water molecules are connected to each other by cooperative hydrogen bonding, and the water molecular chain is breached with the bipyrazole part with hydrogen bond between bipyrazole, nitrogen and hydrogen and the water molecules. In bipyrazole part also, in bipyrazole part also, the hydrogen bonding is present between the nitrogen and hydrogen in suitable parts. Therefore, a 3D cooperative network structure is formed in this crystal. This is the crystal structure, and this is the bipyrazole unit, and this is the zigzag water molecular chain, which is connected by hydrogen bonding, and there is a hydrogen bond between water molecule and the bipyrazole molecule. And this is another cross section of the crystal. This is red circle is denoting the hydrophilic part where the molecule is attached with the water, and this blue part is shown here. This is the hydrophobic part. This is constituted by methyl groups, and it is totally hydrophobic in nature. Now the self-healing process is introduced. A linear crack is propagated in the single polar piezoelectric crystal of one by using a 3-point bending test. The fracture occurring via hydrogen bond rupture leave the opposite dipoles of the crystal opened on freshly broken faces, and the piezoelectric nature leads the generation of a large amount of potential across the broken faces. Therefore, the electrical charge is accumulated across the faces, confirming that if one face has positive charge, then another one should have negative charge. Therefore, they are complementary with each other. Therefore, a strong electrostatic attractive interaction is formed which leads the fragment to be self-propelled and they reassemble in perfect alignment. The recombination can be done even if the fragments are physically apart at a distance of 50 micrometer. The self-propelled part travel with an acceleration of nearly 2.2 meter per second square, and the time required for this reassemblement is 2 to 3 milliseconds. This is a schematic diagram for the generation of surface charge and the self-healing process. Here the crack is introduced and here the piezoelectric effect are leading to generate this opposite charge in these two phases, which will lead a attractive interaction between these two, and these two parts are joined in a perfect manner. This is the scanning electron microscope image of the self-healing crystal. Here the crack is introduced and after this 2 or 3 milliseconds this crack is disappeared. Therefore it's a neatly healed crystal, and which is zoomed here. Now this is a video of the self-healing process of this material. Here the crack is introduced by using 3-point bending test, and after the crack is introduced, as they are physically aparted, the surface charge is generated and they are rejoined again. This is another repetition of the self-healing cycle for this crystal. You can find that there are the crack are introduced and it's healing again, and this repeated in several cycles. Now we come to the self-healing crystals. When the when a single crystal is broken, two crystallographic units are formed. If the fragments are recombined in such a manner so that the crack line is disappeared almost and the healed crystal behave like one crystallographic unit, then the healed crystals are termed as perfectly healed crystal. Therefore, in perfectly healed crystal, the crack lines are almost disappeared in scanning electron microscopy and other microscopic technique also, and the alignment of these two broken fragments are done properly so that the crack is disappeared and the healed crystal is behaving like single crystallographic unit. Now, in case of the imperfectly healed crystal, if the fragments are reassembled in such a way that their crack lines are visible and the healed crystal are behaving like two crystallographic units, these are called as imperfectly healed crystal. Actually, the crack lines is visible here and the misalignments of the fragments has been taken place. But as it's healed, it still can hold its own weight when it's lifted by one part. As it's mentioned before, the trace causes generation of the voltage in the broken part of piezoelectric crystal by measuring the potential. By measuring this potential, one can quantify the healing alignment. In this panel C, the voltage is generated up to 9 volt, which is quite high, and this is for the freshly broken phases, and which is shown here. Now, in the panel B, this is a imperfectly healed crystal, and there also some small amount of potential is found across the crack line, which is shown here. And this profile A is a topographic image of a imperfectly healed crystal. But for the neatly healed crystal, it doesn't show any potential across the healed crack line. Here the X-ray diffraction is performed to know about the crystallographic alignment. In case of neatly healed crystal, only one sharp peak is found in the intensity profile. Therefore, it is implying that there is only one crystallographic domain present to diffract the X-ray. But in imperfectly healed crystal, two sharp peaks are found in the intensity profile. Therefore, there should be two crystallographic domains which are diffracting the X-ray in different ways. Therefore, the misalignment of the broken faces is confirmed again. In XRD intensity profile, sometimes the two peaks for the imperfectly healed crystal are too close to each other so that we couldn't distinguish them easily. So to overcome this problem, the linear retardance, that is DL, which is a parameter associated with the birefringence, is to be measured. The birefringence is an optical phenomena of anisotropy in the refractive indices in different direction of crystal. It is actually a phenomenon of optical anisotropy. Here the spatial variation of dl with the in the crystal is shown for three crystals, that's pristine crystal, neatly healed crystal, and a imperfectly healed crystal. For the pristine crystal, the dl value is not changing with the distance. And in neatly healed crystal also it is fluctuating very little, but still it can comparable with that of pristine one, the, confirming the perfect alignment of the broken faces. But in case of the imperfectly healed crystal, it is fluctuating in a higher rate, which is revealing the misalignment of the fragments in the crack position. And in this D, E, and F, the orientation of retarded axis is shown for these three crystals. In case of neatly healed crystal and the pristine crystal, that is E and D, the retarded axis is oriented in one particular direction. That is, in case of pristine, its direction is this type, and in case of neatly healed crystal, is oriented in this direction. But in case of imperfectly healed crystal, the orientation of the retarded axis in crack part is different from that of the other part. Therefore, there are some misalignment in the crack part. Here the DL values for these three crystals are shown here. We can find that the DL value for pristine and neatly healed crystals are quite similar, but in case of imperfectly healed crystal, it's almost 50% that of pristine one. So it's denoting that the self-healing efficiency in this imperfectly healed crystal, it is actually less. All of these are denoting the imperfect recombination of the broken fragment in imperfectly healed crystal, where the neatly healed crystal had performed the self-healing property very perfectly. Now we come to the conclusion part. Not only the piezoelectric material is very important property for the self-healing process, but there are few piezoelectric materials like gamma glycine, L-histidine, etc. And this type of amino acid, they didn't show this type of self-healing process. Actually, they have strong hydrogen bond interaction and network within them, and so that they are highly elastic, and therefore they are less affected by this plastic deformation. So this so not all piezoelectric materials shown this type of behavior. But here this chosen crystal is showing this type of behavior. The healing process also can be repeated here for the same position in for several cycles, so that if the crack is again generated, it will be healed. And it is quite hard and stiff in the comparison of other self-healing materials. Actually, it is the one of the most hardest self-healing material. Now we come to the future aspects. Actually, this self-healing process here is very perfect, and it is precise in nanoscale, and this so that it is very desirable in case of technological applications like transducer. This piezoelectricity based repair mechanism also can be transferred into other polar materials such as semi-crystalline films, retaining order at the nanoscale, which would be more interesting, and desirable for technology transfer. There is another video clip which is the auto recombination of these physically separated crystals that I shown. I hope you guys will enjoy it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anusha, for the wonderful presentation. I would like the attendees to post their questions, doubts on the chat or raise their hand now, and we shall ask you to unmute. Also, we have now with us another author, Dr. Sumanta Kumar Koron, a postdoc in the Department of Material Sciences and Engineering at Penn State University. Now, yeah, okay, so the questions have started flowing in, so I will reiterate. Uh, Swastik বিশ্বাস is asking, what is the motivation behind choosing biperazole over other oligomers of di or triazoles? Where other possibilities with other polar heterocyclic dimers explored, or is there any theoretical reason for opting them out? I would like the authors to answer the questions.
Hi, this is Surajit.
Hi.
Hi, Rituparna is here, right? Ritu
Yeah.
Shivombhaiya. Ritu Shivombhaiya and
Yes,
Shivombhaiya.
I'm also here.
Okay, so
You can show yourself, so that they will know you.
My God, Shivam Bhaiya looks really good. Anyway,
From childhood, I know. Thank you. Can you answer the question? We'll go for the question.
Okay, so Ritu, like from the beginning, Ritu and me actually working in another project we are working. So Ritu, I think Ritu, we started this interpenetrative system, no? So
we started this can you repeat which system?
Interpenetrated framework.
Yeah, we started with the interpenetrated system. Yeah.
So we try to make something. So a co-crystal we tried to make this biperazole molecule and another this suveric acid. Now we wanted to make a co-crystal, but accidentally it didn't co-crystallize. So single crystal of biperazole came, and in our lab actually we work on this flexible crystals. So we tried to bend it by 3-point bending, and suddenly I saw it broke, and in a blink of eye it actually just held. So then we thought it's a magic or something, we don't know. So from now, then we captured in the high-speed camera. There we see, there is a like huge attraction among the particles, and so.
Did you think that you had not slept properly that night? That you saw something strange?
Yes.
Everybody in the lab thought that it is complete utter, like what are we looking at right now?
And our Professor Reddy was not here in the campus, so he was in USA. So we couldn't contact him also. Then after he came back, these 7 days we didn't, slept properly. Then Sir said, okay, it's a very interesting one, so we should keep digging into it, and then slowly it developed. So actually means initially we characterize the thing in the in our lab. Then when we try to know what is the mechanism and all, so then we contacted. I met Sumanta Da in Kharagpur. So we actually there we tried to another application or like ferroelectricity we tried to explore. So then Sumanta Da came up with, okay, we can do the piezoelectric measurement. Then it became part of the mechanism. So due to the piezoelectricity, it is happening. And then Shivam Bhaiya is here. So means when we started, we don't know what we are looking for. Means what we will do with it. So then they came up with, okay, we can efficiently probe the nanoscale order, and we can nanoscale order, and we can compare that order parameter. pristine hill.
I think the first time when you guys approached us, that was, I don't know, somehow the time was correct that we had this microscope ready by the time. But I think the first time when it was about bending, to quantify how much bending and whether you can do this quantification on a nano like scale or not. I think that was the first thing that you guys came into. We have one or two images from the first bended crystals, and then the whole thing got shifted. Suddenly I'm like, okay, something's happening. Let's go ahead.
Yes. So like so a lot of people contributed, and so the things comes out like this.
So the takeaway message, like in research, I think it's very well adapted by Nirmal Ghosh also. He said it once to us, that research is not like I told you to go this way, go right, left, and right, and you reach there. If you do that way, that's not research. It doesn't happen in research. Okay, otherwise everyone will be sitting in the lab and writing papers, and everything will be done. So it's one of the very good example of this. What Surajit was explaining. You start with something, you get something different around the path. So.
Yes, means that serendipitous result. So now we know how to make it. So if you in that database, lot of molecules, lot of crystal structures are there. So if you in the very last portion of our work we mentioned that you need this non-centrosymmetry, this plastic deformation, then you will get this property. So now from the serendipitous result, we now learned how to design it. So we are making many compounds and we are exploring it. So so like that it developed.
It was quite magic, like
Yeah.
for all of this, like last 1.5 years, like what has gone through. No, but seriously, but like very pointedly, what he asked, like di and tri-keto pyrols, and why not more nitrogen atoms in the pyrrolo systems? So I don't know who asked this question. Right. So it was the first guy, right? Shostik. So what Surojita was trying to say, Shostik, is that we got the phenomena and then we tried to make it more and more rigorous. So Surojita was, doing experiment after experiment. Then Shubham Bhaiya, Shumantoda, all of them were doing experiment after experiment for the first set of systems. So you cannot go from just one system and then, just include more nitrogens. That is not how research is done. You first explore what you have and then you make another thing. So yeah, so that is why it was there. But I think the next chemistry question Surojita knows like absolutely perfectly. With the role of sodium hydride, Surojita.
Actually, we made this compound in a slightly different way. We did with the iodine, na, Ritu? Iodine,
so it's an Umpulang reaction.
Yes, iodine and sodium hydride. So this, that diketone, that methylene CH2 will be CH minus, then it will be iodized. Then another methyl, that minus will come, then that iodine will be substituted.
Yes.
Okay.
It's a typical, as you will read like in your chemistry course also, it's Umpulang. And that is why it was so efficient actually. I think Surojita should, he did something there in the yield also. We actually did not buy anything from Sigma, no?
Yes. So this, the middle compound is very costly. I think 1 gram 60,000 something. So, but we made it in our lab. Okay. Any other question? Acha. Ritu, can you read other questions?
They want to know how hard is the crystal. So like, because they don't really understand what the hardness thing means, right? So they want to know like how hard is this crystal, like in like simpler terms, I think.
Okay, so it is not close to the glass or something. So it is close to like a sugar cube or salt. How hard it is? It is like that. It's not a like glass or quartz something. So it is in organic crystals, typical organic crystals. How it happens? So normally like sugar or salt. So it's like that.
We would really appreciate if you would unmute your mic and ask the question, because like you have Surojita, Shumanta, everybody is here. They can all hear you. So typing makes it difficult.
Yeah, he's part of story. So.
Shumanta will tell the
Yeah. So story about this is the first of all, this arrangement of discussion is very great for the student who are actually learning like graduation or post graduation. But one thing is that really this is a very outstanding work in the whole world. So we are expecting in the future, this is the very beginning step, but this actually work can help a lot of things, including biological and even this mechanism nowadays scientists are trying in different system also, because this healing system is the primary concern of this, and for the if you consider like any application of this type of material, so if you consider like piezoelectricity, because this is the very common also in the world for a application oriented, because after discovery so many work left, so there is no application, but primary thing is that we need to application, but this is the very beginning step, but we are expecting in the future it can change the world. So this is the starting of the one disciplinary. I am expecting this is the beginning, and we can explore more material also, and even we will try to like any commercialization in about 50 years of this type of material, because one very good thing is that if we like implanted in this type of thing in our body in the future, because this piezoelectric, this type of material is generating very low power, but that is not the disadvantage, that is also as an advantage in particularly like body implantation, because there is some material like inside the body they are using that is like healing in under several conditions, like if you put inside the blood, like then there is some like another chemical reaction is happening to heal the material. But if in the future this type of material we can use, we don't know, but we are expecting, so it can autonomous heal, like if we like more compatible nature. But the story of this work is that when actually Surajit came to my lab, that time actually I am exploring the normally the devices of the piezoelectric. So I, after just seeing this concept, I this means I congratulate that this is the generic word. I know from that day that this work is will go for the big journal, and this is the breakthrough type of work. But we need to prove how we can like include something from my side, or then we are discussed several times with Dr. Reddy, Dr. Surajit and Rituparna. We are discussed several times. So after that we have like, when we have seen in our lab that there's a piezoelectricity, so then Surajit also understand what is going on, and he can contact other group members. So all are actually in the paper, their author is I congratulate all of them, because without anyone we cannot do this type of amazing work. But I can say everyone I have learned from my piezoelectric side, and so this is the very beginning and primary step, but it will the big impact in the scientific community in the future, because it will change lot of explanation in regarding biological material, and including the other piezoelectric material, like ferroelectric also, like perovskite material, like they are also trying nowadays by following this paper. So this is the importance of this work, I can say. And thank you everyone, and thanks for inviting me to join this discussion.
There are really a lot of questions. Yeah, go ahead, Surajit. Not
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for the anecdotes. I mean, like we would like to uncover more of them. And now Omkar Sahu has raised his hand. So Omkar, please go ahead.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for the presentation. It was quite nice. I'm completely from a non-chemical, non-physical background, so it was really interesting to know about what exactly the paper was about, and it was a really huge thing. So congratulations to the authors, and thank you for the presentation again. My question was, so in one of the slides, the presenter mentioned that there are two kinds of crystals, one which are called perfectly healing crystals, and the other one's called imperfectly healing crystals. So the question is, is there the perfectly and imperfectly? We see that the orientation is completely in the perfectly healing crystal, the orientation is perfectly aligned so as to heal the scar and all that. But in the imperfectly one, it is not really healing the scar so as to say and all. So is it really is it something which is an inherent property of the crystal itself, or is it just a chance or a random event? If a crystal is maybe at one time it may be perfectly healing, but another time it can be imperfect healing or something. I hope my question was clear.
Yes. Things is, suppose you have, so we are doing it on the, so crystal are grown, naturally grown crystal. So there are a lot of debris on top of the crystals. So if you break something, so some debris come inside that portion. So that, that alignment will not be perfect. So sometimes that's why we see the crack. And suppose, so for our case, we means purposefully made this cracked crystal, so to see that when it is not healing properly, so what is the intermediate state, what is happening out there. So it, this is like intermediate kind of state, so where we can extract more information about the healing mechanism. So what is happening, so when we see that, so Shubham Bhaiya can, I mean,
Yeah, I was thinking I should jump in.
Yes,
The thing is that, see, I will not answer it from the chemistry point of view, but I can say somewhere from a general or physical point of view. So something like, suppose you break something, so it may happen like after breaking, the way it heals is something what they have been studying, that this piezoelectric effect and all. But you need to understand also that how it heals, and like even if it doesn't heal, what happens to the other part, right? So the section that was shown, for example, if you go to slide number 23. You had something from the slide 23, right, where you are asking that the arrangement of the crystal. So from that figure, we are trying to show that the orientation in the crystal when it is not suppose when it is pristine, it has not been disturbed, and when it is broken and when it has healed, we try to understand what is the arrangement there. So can you go to slide number 23, whoever is presenting? Here it was some Anusha, right?
Yeah, Anusha, can you
Sorry, get to
Yes,
slide number
yes.
23. I think it's 23, right? Yeah. So in slide number 23, if you see image F or like DEF, with the DEF, basically we are trying to show like, the arrangement is very much in the order, in D and E. But the portion where you have a crack, if you see the image number F, around the crack, the orientation changes, So this is basically the orientation of the crystal here. And this orientation is changing because in this case, you have a physical separation also in the crack. If it was not physically present there, you would not have seen this sort of deformity in the arrangement there. It would be something similar to DNF. So, sorry, I think I went to the momentum with the. Can you repeat the question? Sorry, the last part, like the orientation. You are asking for something. Why?
So I was just asking, is it inherent property of the crystal, or this orientation is maybe a chance event, like perfectly?
No. It's a property. It's a property itself of the crystal, like especially this type of crystal, the class of crystal that they are studying, and they have studied other crystals also in the similar domain. But not all classes do this healing, right, Surajit? Like they have already given this in a supplementary that there are different classes of. No, it's not supplementary. It's somewhere else, I think. Sorry. So what I mean is like, yeah, there are different classes of material in similar. They don't heal in a way this type of crystals heal. So it's a property of this specific crystal to answer it precisely in a line. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for this. And it was really nice to listen to all the anecdotes, and I was especially impressed when Surajit Bhaiya said that he synthesized the compound itself, which was 60,000 rupees per gram. So that was quite cool. So as to say. Yeah. Thank you.
Sometimes you have to make do when paisa nahi rehta na, tab karna padta hai.
That
Yeah,
mainly
yeah,
happens.
jugaad.
Jugaad, actually, that mainly happens in our country. When you go abroad, it's like you have to buy. We work with a small crystal, this crystal, like not this crystal, but yeah, we work in some nanophotonics. So we basically work with 1 mm by 2 mm kind of glass crystals and all, because it's very costly. When you come here, they give you the big chunk, make it whatever you want to work.
Yeah.
So, but so that's why that is the way
We
it
aren't
happens
rich in
sometimes
India, so
That's a great skill to have.
Yeah.
Yeah. So two more people
Tahiti
have.
and Gunjan.
Yeah. So yeah, Gunjan, you can go ahead. Gunjan, are you there? I think then we will hear the question of Tahiti's first. Uh, yeah, okay. Okay, Gunjan, go ahead. Yeah, you can unmute yourself. Are you having any problem then?
Gunjan, you can type your question. Maybe in the meanwhile, Tahiti can ask
Yeah.
a question.
Tahiti, go ahead with the question. Yeah, for timing.
Yeah, in the paper, for to characterize this crystal, you have used the Mueller matrix. I
Yeah.
couldn't understand that
Okay,
thing. Can
so
you just explain it?
yes, it's in simple terms. It's basically you study light matter interaction, right? So it's something very similar. So what we do additionally is like it's like we just added this polarization that is the inherent property of light. So what happens like when the light interacts with the matter, it changes, right? It changes in some fashion. So what we were doing with this Mueller matrix is basically trying to understand how this polarization changes with the interaction. Okay, and based on the interaction, we try to quantify like how much the change has happened or like the interaction has changed the property. So for example, if I say about polarization, suppose I start with a linear polarization. I'm just giving one example. So I give the linear polarization. Depending on the material interaction, it might remain linear. It can remain. It can turn into circular. It could get elliptical. It could even reduce the intensity. For example, I go with 100 photons that are linearly polarized. I may get only 60. 40 might have got randomly polarized. So these sort of interaction is what we do. And Mueller matrix, you can say, is basically this optical fingerprint or like the polarization fingerprint. So if you have a Mueller matrix, you can tell all sort of polarization properties of the material what we are studying. So this Mueller matrix could be of a crystal, it could be of a liquid, it could be of a gaseous material, it could be of a thin film, it could be of tissues. We do it for tissues also a lot, like polarimetry has been really useful, for biomedical studies and all, for contrast enhancement and all. So Mueller matrix is basically optical fingerprint or like a polarization fingerprint. So if you have this matrix, you can tell all sort of polarization property of the medium. I'm like the sample which when I say medium, it means the sample that you're studying. So whatever, for example, polarization I give, what will be the output, I can know how it will change, all things that are there in that matrix. That's a Mueller matrix. And this Mueller matrix we record in different way. For example, if you want to do a spectral, when you want to do a want to know what happens because at every wavelength you can have a different response. So you do a spectral Mueller matrix. If you want to record it for the spatial part, like if you want to see the imaging, you do a Mueller matrix imaging. So there are different ways we do this this Mueller matrix. And more you can go through the website, or you can just do a small internships in Professor Ghosh's lab, just a small internship, or at least just go for a lab tour or something. That will be nice.
Thank you so much. It was nice hearing your stories. It was very interesting. Thank you for sharing them.
Shubham bhai, just one thing. For the lab tour, we need to be back
sure.
on campus. आप थोड़ा कर दो ना.
You could do a virtual. You can ask for someone who can arrange for a virtual tour at least. But yeah, I think before I left, they were already working on something like a virtual lab tour, where they were trying to explain all the things that we do in the lab. I'm not sure up to what extent they have done, but yeah, they might be there on the website. The details in a person explaining the work, physically showing you what's happening there or not. It might be there, but yeah, nothing can be done in this COVID.
Yeah.
Hopefully, you'll have some time.
Yeah, that's nice.
Gunjan has already put her question. Is it? Did you try breaking the crystal at many points and see the recovery rate every time? So that's it. Sorry, Sergey.
Yes, when you try to know that for you to take a crystal and try to 3-point bending like this, So once the one point is broken already, so then again it is healed. So but this is the weakest point. So means when you apply force in other portion also, so the weakest point will break many times. So in
I
that
think the last slide was there, the last video. It shows something, the same thing, right? You even if you go to the last video, it had the same. It's an answer of the same question. You know, we tried to break it from different points also.
no,
Not this one, not this one.
Another one.
Sorry, before this.
And video 2, I think.
So yeah, here like you are trying to break it from different places, but still, you know, because the portion has already, as Surajit said, it's already weak. I'll say, isn't it weak? To say, is it okay to say weak?
Yes. Means 80%, 85%. So that recovery rate is there. So somehow this is the weakest point. So it will break first. And some other question.
Many people are asking about repeatability, and I think like be very confident in the fact that this was not only repeated from the microscopy and physics point of view hundreds of times, if not more. It was repeated in the chemistry lab also probably 100 times, because we could not believe what we got. So
yes.
So
I'm still working right now. I'm really working on that.
The repeatability is like rock solid. Anybody takes it anywhere in the world, they will have to ask permission, but they take it anywhere in the world, they can get the same phenomena. They will see the same thing for sure.
And that the question comes from this another point of view also, not the reproducing the results, but basically, you know, it's about if you break something, how many times you can break it. Like that comes from a common intuitive way also. Look, how many times you break it and how many times it will heal. So I think they are coming from that point of view, like how much it happens. So it does. I'm like, and you can see the thing is that the way we have mentioned, you know, it roughly 80% or 90% it heals. So there is always a limit of everything, right? You cannot heal every time. Maybe there could be some material that will always heal whatever you do it as many times. But yeah, maybe with this, what we saw is like the healing is only 88%, roughly 88%, right?
Yes.
So if you try to keep it multiple times, it may happen that it might not, after maybe suppose 100 or thousands or something, it might not heal back. Depends. That's difficult to say because that has not been done. I think we have not tried that. But that's
and it's a problem which has many dimensions also. Like you have to go through every single dimension of the problem, whether it's polarization. If it's polarization, what is it? So it requires a lot of study.
Yes.
So
for polymer gel, so these are there as diffusion, no? So already healing are there. So but for crystals, I think it's very solid material. So there is no diffusion. So you need this perfect alignment. So charge are coming, so that is actually helping. So you know, getting healing in crystal, it's itself a very difficult job. But luckily we got. Now we learned and we are making some other crystalline materials.
Shefali.
Yeah,
you can
thank you for your anecdotes. They were really inspiring. I mean, we don't really get to hear the background of the research work done. We just focus on the paper or the findings. So it was really nice to hear. So about the question, I was wondering, as we rely on hydrogen bonding for healing, what would happen if we could have, say, more water molecules encased within the cavities? Or is there a upper limit to the number used? Is there a demerit if we go for more water molecules?
Actually, more water molecule will give you like more polarization. So you need for a unit cell. So if there are many molecules are there and have like large amount of dipole moment of each molecule, so then you will be getting more charge. So it's like that, and all molecules should be in a should be arranged in a non-centrosymmetric manner, or you can say in a head and tail fashion. That packing should be there, so that if all molecules will be unidirectional for say, so then all the dipoles will be in the same direction. So you will be getting more polarization, or you can say it is more charge separation. So like that. So if you introduce more molecule inside a unit cell, so you will be getting more polarization. But controlling crystallization is very difficult thing. But ideally, it will be it can provide more charge. The more molecule can give you more potential and more charge. Yes, yes.
So that just clarifying on that. So if there is more water, and so that can interfere in the healing process. Do you mean to say that?
No. So this water is actually different. Lattice water is totally different from the water you are thinking of. So this is solvent water. So this is different. But lattice water is it's like a single water molecule inside a other organic molecules are there. So inside that it's forming a strong hydrogen bond and sitting inside the lattice. So this lattice water is totally different from the water you are thinking of. So this is different. So it is in solid state. This water is in solid state, like ice, you can say. So inside the crystal lattice, water are sitting. So if you have more water or molecule, you will be getting more polarization, and maybe that extent of charge separation will be more.
Oh, okay. Sure. Thanks.
But there is also a limit to which you can put water, because every single molecule, because it is going to arrange around, so you will have a definite volume of the pore wherever water will be. You can only fit a set amount of waters in a given kind of IC packing, right? So that you actually get the head to tail orientation. And if you keep increasing the amount of water, it no longer is going to be that crystal. It is going to start to become a solvate. So that will it becomes a completely different system. So
yeah, more like a upper limit.
There is don't think of an upper limit or lower limit. It is just that an amount of water molecules is sort of based on what is being crystallized.
Yeah,
because
means it has to has that certain number. Yeah, I got it. Thanks.
Yeah, because the number of hydrogen bond acceptors and donors is fixed. We can't change that dynamic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There is one more question. Can you give some idea about how rigid the crystals are and how much bending torque is required to break a crystal of a specific length?
Bhaiya, I think that question was taken. So
Is it okay? Sorry.
Yeah. So uske baad, there are questions. One of them asks, so is this type of healing only for hydrogen bond breaks, or would it also heal a covalent bond which broke due to the stress?
So breaking covalent bond by mechanical force is a little difficult, but some reports are there in the polymer and all. But in crystal, it is very difficult. Ideally, you don't need maybe hydrogen bond. Maybe you don't need. Means we don't know. If you need piezoelectricity, you need van der Waals group, you need non-centrosymmetric packing. That's it. So we are having more system without hydrogen bond and all. So it will be more broader. If you don't have hydrogen bond also, that also can show. So you need piezoelectricity and plastic deformation inside the structure. That's it.
Okay, another question here is is there any charge dissipation if this crystal is actually broken in a different medium? So
yes. So we try to heal inside water. So water have very high dielectric constant. So these charges means immediately dissipating. So we are not seeing any healing or attraction. So then with low dielectric solvent we tried. Then it is that intensity is less, but still it's showing. But in air it is very very efficient. So yes, that charge, if charge is there, if charge is getting dissipated, then it will not show healing. So main trick is the charge.
But that will depend on the dissipation. I'm like how fast the dissipation is, right?
Yes. So it will depend on the media. So if the media has more dielectric constant, so it will dissipate the charge very quickly. Yes. And it will work on, suppose if you broke it and it is fall apart in a larger distance, but in a critical distance up to it will work, like Coulombic law applies to that. So
it's like the breaking of fingers. If you cut by mistake chop off a finger, if you put it close, the doctors can heal it up, seal it, right? If you took it throw it somewhere else, it will not. Something similar, right?
Yes.
That's actually a very good comparison. Very dark, but very good.
And okay, there's one more question, which is like, have you thought of experimentally trying out other candidates? But I guess that's already answered. So
Yes.
Yeah. Loads.
Did many, some positive, some negative.
Yes.
yeah, and then Mitchell again says like, okay, so do you have any other candidates in mind? So like, what properties would you look for in candidates going ahead, like instead of bipartisan?
So we have like few, we have 4-5 we are exploring, but it will take time. So हमारा lab में time लगता है.
No, but if the question comes from different side, for example, remove this piezoelectricity aside, what could be the, like, even I'm asking like the same question in different way. What could be the another way of achieving, self-healing in an autonomous way, except piezoelectricity? It could be something else that you can say.
Yeah, that may be, for a centrosymmetric system, if you suppose you are applying force in such a way that there is a symmetry breaking, so then you might get charge. So in context of charge, how we are getting the charge, so that is another one. But any other reports are there that if you break a crystal, so but in surface the molecules are very active, so prone to some reaction or something. In a room temperature it can react, so if you put together and some reaction is happening, so again the crack will be closed. So that also another possibility is there, but we can explore that. Yes.
In fact, there is also an infinitesimal limit. Like you can try to make cracks not just by using like physical force. You can
Yeah.
make cracks in many ways. Actually, as long as you can even make a crack if you resonate with the lattice frequency. Really. So
Or puts a very strong acid, nah? Why do you have to go that?
Yes,